Well, hello and welcome to another episode of Coffee with Delzi, a short conversation delivering insights and best practices from industry experts and, more importantly, your peers from around the country to help bring the espresso to your practice. I'm your host, Matt Delzingaro, or Delzi for short. I'm so grateful to have you here today. And today's guest is Amy Kizer, co-founder and managing partner with Talent Link Solutions out of San Diego, California. Amy, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. I appreciate the invite.
No, we're gonna have some fun. So just a little background on how I met Amy. I happened to go and attend the Matthew Jarvis and Micah Shalansky, the Perfect RIA Tax Planning Summit out in Tempe, Arizona. Amy happened to be a keynote speaker at the event, and we got to see her, and I was just so excited, and I was like, wow, she knows her stuff around HR and the hiring process. And I was like, okay, my advisors are constantly asking me, who do you know who? Is there anyone that you can hire or bring on board or whatever? And I was like, wow, if Amy has a process and does this for a living for my advisors specifically, she's got to be a guest on my show. So Amy, thank you so much for doing this. I certainly appreciate it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Advisors need help around all things human resources, I do believe. So,
Yeah, oh, absolutely. So today we're going to do a deep dive into strategies and stories that help independent advisors and RIs thrive, right? Not just by working in their business, which we often see, but by intentionally working on it, right? That's what we always have to do. We all get caught up in the everyday things, right? Too often advisors find themselves caught in day-to-day activities like managing portfolios, doing financial plans, answering client calls, right? Putting out fires. So we're going to step back, right, Aim?
that's
And
right.
we're going to basically help these advisors shape the long-term vision for their firm. And how do you do that? Where do you start? Well, it's hiring good people. So, Amy, you're going to help us do that. So, folks, sit back, grab a cup of coffee. Amy, do you have a cup of coffee?
Cup of coffee right here.
All right, we're on the board today. Okay, not every one of my guests have coffee. Because this is a conversation that's going to be full of practical tips for anyone looking to upgrade or even add talent to their team. So, a little background on you, Amy. Your career spans more than 2 decades supporting companies and managers with hiring and decisions specifically in the financial services sector, which is awesome, right? You're a specialist, you're not a generalist, right? So, you focused specifically on the financial services industry. And I mean, you walk the walk. You've built entire divisions from the ground up, led hiring for mid-sized broker dealers. So you know our language, right? You
That's
know that
right.
broker speak. So you not just only bring just depth and real world insight into how today's successful advisors find, interview, and retain the talent that powers the growth, right? So our industry is evolving. I mean, my gosh, with everything coming on board between AI and all the different softwares and things like that. So there's challenges around hiring and HR, right? It's hyper competitive today to find top talent, right? And
It
how do our
is.
advisors do that? And so that's really what our conversation is about, is not only who, but how to do it. And I'm
Mhm.
sure you could tell us a million stories of advisors and their hiring process and their interview process, and it's probably gets sick to your stomach thinking about some of this.
All my advisors listens to me, Delzy. I don't know what you're talking about.
I know, I know. Well, that's when they hire you and say, Amy, you take over this because we're certainly not hiring the best talent, right? So, I mean, we have to, you have to put the energy into it, right? You have to
Yeah.
invest into that process. So that's why you're here. We're going to have a candid conversation around this. We're going to address 7 essential questions. And folks, just be mindful of the fact that Amy provided us 2 wonderful pieces: the steps to hiring process. It's a PDF with, a detailed 6 point checklist that, helps you do that hiring process. And then Amy, this interview guide is awesome that you provided. So she's
Yeah.
giving you like 10 different questions for every different role in the planning
Mhm.
process, right? You got the administrative assistant, you got the client service associate, the
Yeah.
financial advisor, like an entry level. So
Yeah.
you provided all these different questions for them as well. So I love it. Thank you so much for doing that. And I'm going to provide that as a link as well. So, Amy, let's just start with an easy one, right? What's happening across the industry with hiring new employees advisors need to watch out for?
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy town right now, right? I mean, I think from the, lack of talent to the evolution that's happening in our industry, right? The growth that's happening in our industry, it's kind of all coming together and just creating this perfect storm. Every single firm out there has some sort of effort going on around human resources as a whole, but a vast majority of them are hiring. When I speak, when I talk to advisors, I tell them all the time, your competitors are absolutely hiring, right? If the offices down the street from you, they all are looking for talent right now. And so, recognizing, how competitive it is, I think should draw how you sort of structure your efforts as it relates to hiring, but also as it relates to retaining, right? Your current employees and, your total compensation package. I mean, it really just all kind of bleeds together and it's all really being driven by this competitive marketplace that we're in.
Yeah, so I mean, I have advisors every day. I mean, I go travel around as a wholesaler, right? And I see this and I see offices, I see empty desks. I'm like, who's supposed to be there? They're like, well, we're looking for someone for this, you know who?
Yeah.
And it's always the who do you know who, right? And I know that's sort of part of your process when you spoke in Arizona is like, look at your network first,
That's
right? Is
right.
that, I mean, that
Absolutely.
should be the first place. Even
First place.
telling clients or asking them if they,
I feel you should. I feel you should.
yeah.
A lot of advisors fight me on that one, but
Do they really? Is that an uncomfortable ask if
it
it feels like
is.
they're vulnerable if they're asking their clients
Well,
if they have someone that might wanna get in the business?
I think they think it's a reflection on them, right? Whether it's, I'm growing and I can't seem to find good people, right? That's a reflection on them, they feel. Or if they have turnover, right? That's a reflection on them or their firm. So I understand where they're coming from. But, that's the moment where you just need to, get on board with the business mind and do the right thing for your business.
Well, it's funny, I can tell exactly the culture of an office just by looking at, 1, their website, okay,
Yeah.
and then the bios that they have on there,
Yeah.
right? But the length of tenure of those employees, and
Yeah.
if I walk in there and I see them every, like, 3 to 6 months, right, and I see a different employee, I'm like, "Oh gosh, another one just got fired."
They should be
Or
calling Amy.
yeah, yeah, so I'm like, "Alright, we need to get Amy." But I often see that, and, sometimes you just gotta go outside and go, "Okay, what am I doing wrong to
Yeah,
keep top talent," right?
for
So,
sure.
it's called a reality check is what these advisors really
It
sometimes
is.
need. So, what should advisors really be thinking about before beginning a hiring process?
Yeah, so hopefully, right, fingers crossed, we're able to get started ahead of having to be reactive and replace that person that, walked out the door unexpectedly. Because I
Okay.
think that if you have the ability to be a little more proactive in the process and thoughtful, that's actually going to increase your chance for success. Even if you don't suspect, right, upcoming turnover, a new role opening due to growth or anything like that, it really pays. Maybe it's through your business planning process, right? Right now, everyone should be planning for 2026. And so maybe it's through that process that you're thinking about, who we are, what are our strengths and weaknesses, right? Doing that, traditional SWOT analysis, right? What do we have in our firm? What is good? What is bad? What do we need to fix? And then if and when we do hire, how can we frame that so that we're filling those gaps? And then the other thing that I always tell people that they could be doing sort of in advance or ahead of time is crafting that compelling story. Again, going back to that competitive talent market that we're in, the more buttoned up your story is, the more that it's unique to you. It's individual. It's about who you are as a firm owner. It's about your client set, how you take care of them, what impact this person can make in your firm. Right, all of that goes together to create that compelling story, and that is what's going to make you more powerful compared to all the firms that are down the street and hiring as well.
So I love that the idea of, just prepping and thinking about it, but also what are your thoughts around just consistently having like a bullpen of interns coming through and, um like on our side, the distribution side for wholesalers, my former divisionals, and they would go, "Hey, you know this guy, you know this guy." I'm like, why do you care? There's no territory it's open. He's like, "No, no, no, Delzy. I always want to know top talent, and if anyone quits or whatever, I have someone to step in so they have a bullpen of
Yeah.
wholesalers ready to go, or at least interview." Do you feel the same way with internships and
Yeah, I think internships can be really useful if they're leveraged in the right way, right? I think you should think of an intern as a someone that you want to provide value to, but then also B as a potential future hire. And so I see a lot of firms that have interns come in and it's very clerical or even sales oriented, right?
yeah,
Where you want to sell them on everything about your firm and get them invested and interested in potentially considering you in the long term if that opportunity does arise. Yes, I think interns can be a really effective hiring model. I know firms that exist out there that's their only hiring model. They have a
yeah.
rotating intern pool, right? Someone comes in fall, someone comes in spring, someone comes in summer, and then when they need to hire, they go back to those people.
That's fantastic. I mean, I
Yeah.
so I know advisors can't stand going to wholesaler events. They just think, "Oh, crap, I gotta go drive there. I gotta sit there, listen to some speaker." And I often tell and I have advisors who taught me this. They're like, "Delzy, I don't go for the content. I go to rub elbows
Go for
with
the food.
maybe, yeah, with a potential purchase of a practice, right? With the older advisors, or they meet some young bucks and they're like, oh my gosh,
Networking.
this kid is going to be a star." So little things like that it helps prep and maybe finding that bullpen of future employees. Would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, I talk about leveraging your network, right?
Yeah.
To help through that process as a whole. And whether it's your clients or a prior intern pool or your wholesalers or custodians, right? Or broker dealer contacts, right? All of those people know people. But, to the point earlier, I think it's about being proactive in it, not just, an offhanded comment. Like you gotta get after it. You gotta get after it just in the same way you go get after clients, right? You've
Yeah.
got to go find the talent. If some will get lucky and it will fall in their lap, but for most people that's not going to be the case. So
Yeah, now I love it. So all right, now we're getting into like which roles, what are the most commonly needed roles that you're seeing? Is it the power planner? Is it the administrative staff, like the receptionist, or the folks that just process paperwork? Where do
yeah.
you see the biggest need, or is it all of it?
I mean, it definitely is all of that. So we're really unique in that we see the industry as a whole. So HR is relevant to almost every advisory firm that exists out there, no matter their structure, no matter their affiliation, right? So we work with Northwestern Mutual Advisors, we work with New York Life Advisors, we work with independent broker dealer affiliated advisors, and then we work with fee only RIAs. So those structures all look a little bit different in terms of, how they set themselves up and then, ongoing sort of what that organizational overall structure looks like. So we see a lot of different types of roles, but in our business, we support everything from that front desk receptionist hire all the way to the C suite. I will say that there's probably four roles that we see most consistently. It's going to be client service and operations, that type of
Okay.
carve out. It's going to be planning support. So paraplanner, associate advisor, that type of thing. I'd say service advisor. So, this is someone who is licensed or credentialed who's coming in to care for an existing client set. They're not bringing clients to the table, they're not responsible for business development. They're strictly there to take care of existing clients. And then I would say fourth bucket is probably like operations leadership. So, operations manager, director of operations, COO.
So let's back up for a second. So if I walk into a lot, I cover the independent channel. So it's
Yeah.
usually an advisor, maybe a couple of staff, maybe it's an advisor, a junior advisor and staff,
Mhm.
a lot of parent, son, daughter kind of setups,
Mhm.
right? And bringing on your family,
Yeah,
which is a whole other conversation in of itself.
that's right.
So where do you see like the advisors, where should they be hiring first? Like out of those roles, like if it's just an advisor and an administrative assistant, like do they have an ops person come in first? Do they have the junior advisor, associate come in? Like
Yeah.
where do you start, do you think? Or it just depends on how many households and all that?
Yeah, so I can't really give like a straightforward answer. I mean, there's
Yep.
not one answer that's going to apply to everyone because kind of going back to what I mentioned earlier, when we get our hands on a firm in that earlier stage, right? So they're coming to us and saying, we know we're at capacity. We know we need something. We don't really know what that is. We're
Okay.
digging into, right, strengths and weaknesses of the existing team so that we can determine what that next hire is going to be. When I'm a business owner too, right? We've gone from 0 employees to we're going to have over 50. Q1
That's
next year.
crazy.
So I've been through all of this, all personally. Plus, I've walked a lot of advisors through this process as well. But what I tell them is, you got to solve for you. You got to solve for you right now. Figure out who you are, what you're actually good at, what you're passionate about, right? The things that you dread every day, those are the things that you should be hiring to.
Yeah.
So it is individual. It is unique to the firm, the structure, the client set, and then the
It's so funny you say that because I have advisors who some of them absolutely love doing the financial plan, like literally sitting in and
yeah,
doing and digging through the weeds and doing the software. And then I
yeah,
have other advisors that can't, they
they
absolutely
hate it.
can't stand it. And all they want to do is go out and bring in new blood,
Yes,
like new in the network. And it's just amazing how different we're all in the same industry, but there's so many different roles that you can play, right? And
yeah,
I love that you said that because I had Libby Greiwe, the efficient advisor, on my show a couple of years ago, and she's the videos on my YouTube channel, Coffee with Delzi. But Libby shared some things like what you exactly said. What do you hate doing? What do you
yeah,
love doing? And then
yeah,
let's figure out how to make your day so enjoyable that you're only doing the things that you love. And that's the perfect firm, right? Is that
yeah.
everyone's doing something that they love. The next question, it comes like on the compensation side. Okay. And how do we develop these like pays and benefits? And actually, how's that looking right now? Like, how competitive is it from that standpoint?
It's looking very competitive.
Yeah.
So, when we started our business, so we've been in business 11 years. So
Okay.
started in August of 2014. And when we started our business, you could hire an experienced, licensed client service associate with easily 5 or more years, sometimes 10 to 15 years. You could hire someone like that for 45, 50, $55,000 base salary. That
Already
same
licensed with experience.
Already licensed with experience.
Wow.
That same role today across the country, we are seeing closer to 75, 80, 85 base salary. Same role.
Wow.
That's 11 years later. It's almost doubled. Right? So,
Wow.
and in some cases it has doubled. I absolutely have some markets where they're at 95, 100 base. So that's sort of a glimpse of, right, how we've shifted over the last 11 years. And this is across the board and it's across the country. There's no one that's safe from this. I have a lot of advisors that will call me and be like, "Well, I'm in this tiny little town." And I'm like, I can't help. That's relevant,
It doesn't
sadly.
matter.
We don't see much discrepancy across geographies. So those numbers are really true across the board, across the country. So I think it's really important to understand what it is that you're dealing with and, be advised, right? Get educated, understand what the market is doing. You can even go like onto like job boards, right? And look at other people's job postings in our industry and get a sense for what's happening. You can always call me. I'm happy to give out, compensation data that we're seeing in the moment so that you can
Oh,
kind of get a gauge as well. But it's not just compensation. So I would say Base salaries are obviously exponentially higher. There is bonus, but then also on top of that, you have the rest of your total compensation, right? You have your benefits package. And I would say, medical, dental, vision, life insurance, disability, and then retirement plan with some sort of contribution. That's a very common benefits package that we're seeing today. And so all of
Okay.
that's a cost, right? And you've got to, think about it in those terms, but it definitely is much more highly competitive than, it was even when we started the business.
So I've seen advisors hire less talent just because it's someone who's married and their spouse has the benefits so that they don't have to pay for the
Yeah.
benefits. Like, so I've
Yeah.
seen everything under the sun of,
That's right.
and
Yeah.
that just limits now even more of the pool of
Yeah.
talent, right?
To that point, this is off topic slightly, but I will share my thoughts around that. Um we have never seen in the 11 years we've been in business, and then obviously I have another 15, 20 years prior to that in the industry. We have never ever seen an advisor hire someone that was more expensive than they wanted to spend, more knowledgeable, more credentialed or licensed than they thought that they needed. So leveling up the role that they thought that they were going to hire. So going the opposite direction, right? Instead of hiring
Right.
someone because you got away with not paying them benefits, you're actually hiring the person that's demanding more benefits because they're so fantastic. I've never seen an advisor make that move and regret it. They have always come back and been like, "Oh my gosh, why did I not do this sooner?" I know
Yeah.
we all wanna be good business management people, right? And make good decisions and be frugal. We wanna make money too. I mean, we're not in this is not a nonprofit world, right?
Right.
So, I get all of that, but I promise you, if you make that elevated hire, it will actually catapult your business. It will be an investment. It will pay for itself and then some.
Well, it's reminds me of one of my offices. It's a father son team with one receptionist, and then they had a admin person that basically did all the paperwork, and she was a superstar, and they were paying her a lot. And she came to them; they were devastated. They're like, she's like, "I'm so sorry. I'm going to go and work for this company," and they're like, where are you gonna make the money you're making working with us? And she's like, "It's not just the money, it's the, moving up here. Like, it's a small firm,
Mm,
right? How high am I gonna move?"
yeah,
So, there was that ambitions, right, that they were competing with, and they
yeah.
came back with even more pay and more bonus, and she still said no, and I'm like, I mean, they loved her, she loved them, but just amazing what some things drive people to. It's not just about the money, right? Have you seen that as well with this younger generation?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think that there is a lot more opportunity for supporting people in their career path and giving them opportunities to grow than a lot of these small firms sort of give themselves credit for. And I'm always happy to dialogue with someone about that. So if anyone's struggling with how to create some sort of career path or opportunity within their small firm, you can call me and I will share some highlights, and get you started on the right path at least. But it's just small incremental growth that most people are looking for, right? They're not, they don't need this like formal career ladder necessarily. They just want to know that you care about them and that you hear them and that you want the best for them and you want them to, develop. So I do think there's more opportunity even in those smaller firms. Then the thing of it is no matter what your size is, even if it's a one-to-one relationship, right? One advisor, one support team member, there are opportunities for growth within that employee. It's going to take a little bit of thought on the business owner's side to figure out what they're comfortable handing off, what they are allowed to do, even like from a compliance perspective and things like that. Always pathways to an individual having the ability to grow within your practice. And so they don't need that corporate ladder. They don't need to see 5 rungs, right, coming up. It can be just small incremental growth over time, but that is what is going to give them the feels, right? They're going to feel cared about, they're going to feel thought about, and that when you aren't competing on compensation and you are competing on, growth and keeping them interested, that's the pathway to accomplishing that and keeping them as long as you possibly can. People may age out, not age necessarily, but in terms of their career path of a
Right.
role. That happens, that's normal. But I think to the degree that you can keep them interested, there's actually a lot more opportunity than most advisors think.
So, as an internal, as a wholesaler, just like, because that's my experience, right? And my
Yeah.
internals, often their goal is to get out and be an
Mm-hmm.
external, right? That's the
Mm-hmm.
ultimate goal, but not every internal wants that. They want to maybe move
That's
to
right.
another. So, my focus is always like, okay, what is your next career step? What can I help you get
Yeah.
there, achieve that? So, I've had 4 internal wholesalers of the year under my tutelage, like in my territory. So, I
Yeah.
take pride in that, right? But I'm honing someone and that it's ultimately going to leave me, right? And we think it's the end of the world, but if I know how to mold an internal to be successful, I guess
Yeah.
I shouldn't ever have to worry about losing that internal, right? And I think that takes practice. And is that a different mindset? Is these
It
advisors
is.
should it like I want this person to be a superstar. If it's
Yeah.
with me, that's great. But if it's
Yeah.
not, you know,
Yeah. I
I've
want to
helped that
support
person
them.
achieve success.
Yeah, yeah. I know it's really hard to have turnover, especially in a small business and especially in a service oriented business. Clients, they get connected, right, to your team just
Yeah.
as much as they're connected to you, in some cases more so. And so
I often
it's,
hear that, Aim.
yeah, yeah. I know it's hard to have turnover, but um I
No.
I call it squishy or whatever you want to say, right? I just believe in karma. So you put out there what you're going to get back. And so if you help people, then eventually it's going to come back around to you. And that's part of owning a business.
So you got to just accept that. That's
Hmm.
basically what you're saying.
That's right.
Okay. It's a great point. I never thought of it that way, though. This is the
Yeah,
first time it really hit me. Like, yeah, these advisors should really take pride in that. If this
they
advisor moves
should.
on and even starts their own practice, my
Yeah.
gosh, you had a part in that, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I have
Yes.
pride markers all over the industry. We have a secondary company where people are client service associates on a remote assistant basis. And we've had some people that started right out of college in our company who are now really highly successful financial advisors, right? And so never realized in hiring them that was going to be their path or what they were going to do, but my business partner and I were very much about propping people up and giving them the opportunities that they deserve. And it's really nice now, right, years later, to see that.
Okay, you threw me a curveball here. So, I because I have advisors who ask me, like, Delzy, should I hire a virtual or should I hire someone local? Like, and
Yeah,
I get that a lot where the advisors are like, look,
yeah,
I'm remote. Like, I'm moving and shaking. I'm all over the country. They don't
yeah,
have an office. A lot of these guys, these independents, work out of their homes, and
yeah.
then they'll go and see the clients. So, I guess is that another avenue is to just go with someone who's virtual.
Yes, and I would say not only is it an avenue, but you should absolutely be doing that if it's a possibility. It kicks the door down on the talent pool. So essentially, right, you try to hire locally. You might, if especially if you're looking for like experience or licensing or credentials, right? You might have a pool of one, two, maybe if you're lucky, it's three really qualified people. If you
Wow.
hire fully remote, you have 15 people that all have exactly what you're looking for. That is the difference. So yes, absolutely. I have firms all across the country that are hiring on a fully remote forever basis, and it absolutely can work. It absolutely does work.
So interesting because our company, my last 2 companies actually, since COVID, all the internals are remote now. And they said the exact same thing is that the talent pool is so much larger if we
Yeah.
can hire anywhere versus
Yeah.
just in Charlotte or just in Seattle or wherever. the
Yeah.
home office is.
Yeah.
So same
And
thing
it
for advisors.
I mean, it changes the culture a little, and you got to
Yeah, it
be,
does.
really like proactive to, get connections happening amongst team members and things like that. So there's things you have to do if you're going to take that step. But yes, absolutely. I'm a huge advocate. My whole team is fully remote. Again, I have another, 45 employees that are allowed to work on a remote basis. Some of them do come to our office, but it's not by command. They choose that. So yeah, I'm a huge advocate for it.
So these virtual employees, are they employees or are they 1099 kind of structure? These are questions if we were
Mm,
live, these advisors would be asking. So
yeah.
what would you suggest? Is it a 1099 setup so they don't have to pay benefits and things, or would you have it as a W-2?
So no, I am never an advocate for having an employee be on a 1099 basis.
Okay, all right. We're
Quite
hearing
quite
it here
frankly,
first, folks.
quite frankly, most scenarios it's actually against the law.
Okay, didn't
There's
know that.
only a real small carve out where you are not dictating anything. The decision's wholly on their time and energy, where it's spent. They have their own resources, their own computers, their own security systems, and everything. They also need to have multiple clients, right, that they're working with. So if you have anyone that's working within your organization, primarily dedicated to you, and you direct their work, you provide their computer, that is an employee every time.
No matter what, because they have to go get
But
a background check and everything to be in
yeah,
this industry, right?
it's
So,
a process, but better that than have an attorney knocking on your door one day because you've made someone mad and they've sought that out, and now you have to pay fees upon fees upon fees upon fees for all the years that you 1099 to them.
wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hopefully that's an eye opener for folks who
I
do
hope so.
use 1099s, because I know a lot of broker dealers actually provide that service, a virtual assistant. So I
Yeah.
guess they're employees of the broker dealer.
Right.
So it's a little bit
Right.
different there from that
Completely
standpoint.
different. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you guys do offer that as well, virtual
We
assistant.
do. We have a very small carve out. We actually built it for Cetera Financial Group. And
That's what I'm
so,
talking about. Okay.
yeah, so within Cetera, we have about 45 client service associates that provide support to the advisors within that advisor pool.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
All right. We're learning something new every day, sister. So let me ask you this. This is kind of like a different question, but it's really thrown on the advisor is like how the interview process. Like, is that a big deal? I mean, if the interview, like I've had some interviews where I'm just like, oh my gosh, this company's a train wreck just based on their process of the interview, right? Like you could get the judge by book by its cover, but just that process. And if it's a
Yeah.
train wreck and there's no real
Yeah.
step by, so what is your take on that, and
Yeah.
how streamlined and how organized should that be?
It should be much more organized than most advisors are. I definitely think most advisors go into interviews the same way they go into discovery meetings with client prospects, right? It's a get to know you, ask a lot of questions. Sometimes I probably do more of the talking, maybe all the time. So, yes, I think most firms need a bit more structure on their interview process. And it should be, and again, this is just all about the planning and being prepared, but it should be thoughtful. It should be questions that are specific to the role and the characteristics that you're looking for. I think, one thing that we recommend firms do is kind of create like a scorecard, if you will, where they're looking at maybe their top 3 or 5 or 7 either experiences or characteristics, traits that they need in this hire. And then they're developing 1 or 2 questions for each of those. So they're ending up with, 7 to 10 to 15 questions that they're actually asking every single person that they interview. And this is really important because it keeps you on track when you tend to go off track, right? Going back to the advisors talking to too much. But then B, it really gives you a way to compare and contrast, because we see so many situations where advisors will interview, say, 5 people, and they hire the least of our choice because of some random crazy reason, right? I just liked them better. They went to X school and I know that's a good school, or whatever it is. And they even ignore like other flags about that person just because of that one like connection or feeling, right? The gut tells them. Where if you use a scorecard, it becomes a lot more clear once you're doing your comparison, like who's really going to be the best fit for the job, and maybe not so
Okay.
much the person you like the most. So I think that having a plan and having a prepared process is really highly recommended. Hands down, like the best piece of advice that I can give advisors in an interview is stop talking. Let the candidate do most of the talking. I know it's hard. I know you want to, fill quiet space. I know you want to share all about who you are and why you're so great and your firm is so great, but you need to assess, right, who they are and if they can even do the job that you need them to do. Otherwise, you're not making effective hiring choices.
I love that scorecard thing. If there's anything I
Yeah.
would take away is that scorecard. I mean,
Yeah.
Jarvis shared on how do you fire clients, and then you get into that's a family friend or that. He's like, take their names off of the Excel
That's
spreadsheet and then
right.
go through their assets and go through their household, whatever, and
Yeah,
determine it that way. Which is, I know it's hard. It's almost like the same thing here. Like,
it
yeah,
is.
you were telling that story on stage about like I hired him because he went to the same school I went to.
My gosh.
It's like, come on.
So many times I have heard that so many times.
Oh my gosh, Penn State, Temple in this area, by
Even
the
when
way.
they're like 25 years apart in
I
graduation, right? Like the school doesn't change in that time? No? Okay.
that's actually I was cracking up when you were talking about that on stage. 25, what do you have anything to do with each other?
Exactly.
So, just because of the same school name, I don't know. That's great. Like, you even had ideas of, like, timing of I think you're a big proponent of Colby and, like, the
Yeah.
personality tests and stuff like that, right?
I am. Yeah. I think I want to make sure and always be clear that if it's used as a data point, then I am all for it, and I think you can get some really interesting information to leverage either through the rest of the interview process, or even if you do decide that's your hire, that information is really useful in managing to that person. So I think personality profiling, skills testing. So, like, we've built a client service assessment, we've built a planning assessment, we have case studies. I mean, all of those things I think can really help you to make a good decision through an interview process and should be leveraged. Just don't use them as a decision point. So, I have some firms that say, I'm going to give this assessment, and if they don't score X, they're out. That's not how any kind of profile or assessment should be used. It should be a discovery and data point.
Okay. All right. I would have thought the exact opposite. My wife homeschooled our 6 children through at least grade
Oh, yeah.
school. And the reason I'd say that is because my wife found a website called 16 Personalities. That's kind of like the same stuff, right? Figuring out how they,
Yeah.
whether, discipline or correction, whatever. And my wife and I found that very early on when our kids were young that we applied how each one's personality and how we disciplined them or
Mm-hmm.
corrected them in different ways, right? And I always thought, my gosh, if I use a 16 personality, I used it on my internals and whether I wanted that internal to be my internal is, are they detail oriented? Are they, do they love, are they more a extrovert versus an introvert? So
Yeah.
for someone who's like going to be clerical or like administrative assistant, don't you want them to have a personality that's more inclined to be detail oriented, task oriented versus I'm exactly the opposite of that, by the way.
Me
So I'm
too.
in my
Me
perfect
too.
role. Yeah. So do you not take that away from those those data points really to determine that hire?
I would much rather test someone in sort of a detail orientation way than gather that from a personality test.
Okay.
So I would say, partner an assessment that confirms whether they have the skill set. I will never forget 100 years ago, before I really even entered the industry, I was like in my first year or something. I was doing a lot of work with TD Ameritrade at the time on their institutional side and
Okay.
to help them to hire. And they wanted us to help them on the retail side as well. And so their retail branches, right, hiring their, I think they called them investment consultants or something. And they had this like sales test that they gave. And so they wanted me to go through the experience to see so that I would know, right, as I was describing it to people, what they had to go through. After I took the test, the guy came in to me. He's like, "We would never hire you. You are not a salesperson." Okay, I have literally built like 4 companies from the ground to highly successful. So, yeah, maybe I'm not your traditional, like, get after it, greasy, sales, slick
Yeah.
type personality, but I get it done in the way that I need to so that it can be successful. So, my drive, right, is overcoming my lack of sales characteristics. Those are the
Okay.
things that you can't always glean from profiling. So, I think, like I said, taking it like as a whole picture is really the main point, because people may be able to overcome some of their innate personality traits in other ways.
You know what? I remember you talking about that very thing on stage
Yeah.
about, if you were to interview me or whatever, I probably wouldn't have been the person in sales or whatever, but I'm
Yeah.
the exact opposite. It's a
Yeah.
really, really good point. Take it at face value, I guess, but it's just the starting point, right?
Yeah.
So that's okay. So, I mean, the last question is, what mistakes do you see firms make when hiring or managing existing staff? So you've just mentioned a few, like talking too much, or just let the other person just, go off. Let them talk. I mean, it's about them getting hired. So let them talk. So any other mistakes that you see?
I think most firms are reactive with hiring. And so that makes it really difficult to have an effective process, right? Again, kind of going back to what I said early on, you're in business planning season right now. So as you're thinking about 2026, like have a, time set aside where you can just be creative around what even is my compelling story. Why am I even different than the 50 advisors that are also in my town or city? What makes us unique? Sort of, do that work to have, way to communicate how and why someone should choose you when you get to a hiring effort. And then also, right, that SWOT analysis. It's so important. I don't know if I touched on it earlier, but I just want to give permission to every advisor out there who maybe is a little bit more like planning focused or investment focused. Those are the things that they care about or that fuel them. You can hire business development people, right? You can hire whatever the gap is, you can hire for that. So just really be like honest, I think, through that process so that you know what gaps you have to fill. Otherwise, you're just a lot of times on sort of a hamster wheel of here it goes again, but I'm still out here doing business development when really I wish I was just in financial planning software all day long. So I think just that reactive nature of it is the most difficult. And then I will add one other just about your current team and current staff. I see a lot of advisors keep people too long. I think most financial advisors are caring people. They care about others. They want to help people. And that then will translate to their team members. So, the person that got you here may not be the person that can get you there. And I know that's really hard conversation to have and even a thought process to have, but you got to do what's best for you and your business and your clients. And if that is having a difficult conversation with even someone that's been with you for 10 years or 15 years, that you want to support them into their next opportunity, but that you need to make a different choice, then that's what you have to do. And I see that a lot, even through like major mistakes, right? Financial impacts to clients and they're still keeping these employees around because they have some like connection to them.
Wow.
I see that quite a bit. And then the last thing I'll maybe wrap with is just patience across the board. I don't know, what your advisor pool looks like, but a lot of advisors I know don't tend to be the most patient.
Yeah.
So whether that is through the, hiring process or onboarding, or even when you're having, the 3-year, 5-year conversation with your current team, a lot of that is just understanding where they're coming from and being quiet, keeping your thoughts to yourself sometimes, and trying to, understand how to help them get where you need them to be, if possible. That's going to be the most effective way to run your business. So keep that patience in mind.
It kind of reminds me of like patience and letting well, from a parenting standpoint, letting your kids fail and,
Yeah.
not take over and try to do it for
Yeah.
them. Just,
Yeah.
give them, say, hey, try this, see what you do.
That's
And if you
right.
fail, you fail. All right, you'll learn from it. It's
Yeah.
kind of like that same mindset.
We see a lot of that, especially like early on when it's their first hire or their second hire, right? They've been doing it for so long themselves that they don't know how to let go. And even if someone makes one small mistake, then they're like on them like a hawk, right? And they aren't allowing them to fail. So you don't even know what they know or don't know because you're back in there micromanaging everything. So yeah, it applies in this world too.
It's fine. I had Erin Botsford on here, was one of my guests I think it was last year. Yeah, last year. And she had an 18-person team. She ran $1 billion practice. Now she's an advisor coach. And and we were talking about employees and how to develop, a junior associate or whatever it might be, and my administrative assistant. And she said, the way we hired or build our practice and added a new employee was the person in that role. If you wanted to move up, you're literally um, training someone to replace you. So now it's
Mm,
not on the advisor, it's on the person they hired. It's supposed to be the
yeah,
superstar. And now they're training the next person to replace them so that they can move up. Any
yeah.
thoughts around that? Or is that a good mindset?
I think it is. I think you have to get to that point at which you can do that. I don't know if that's working right in that first few hires, but a lot of that I think does go back to the advisor not being willing to let go of it. So yeah, I absolutely agree with that. Once you get to the size where it makes sense.
Folks, how do people get a hold of you? If they're not going to hire you right now or whatever, what do you want them to think about? And why would I talk to Amy?
Well, you can get a hold of me a lot of ways. I'm on LinkedIn, very active on LinkedIn, so that would be the
Okay.
first thing. You can go to our website, www.talentlinksolutions.com. You can email me direct. It's just AKIZ, like zebra, ER at talentlinksolutions.com. So any way you need to reach out, I am always willing to hop on the phone with an advisor and just talk through things. So even if it seems super small and, just have one little question, you can always reach out to me. And then, what was your other question?
I mean, why would they hire you? Like,
Oh, why
that's
would they
that's
hire?
perfect. What you just said, like, just call
Yeah.
and just if you have any questions, like, you're willing to talk. It's not gonna.
Yeah. I guess in terms of why you would, contact us, we are a full service HR consulting firm. So I know we focused a lot on hiring here in the conversation today, but that's probably only about 70% of the work that we do, right? We do a whole other sort of carve out of HR tasks that don't touch hiring at all, like writing employee handbooks, counseling through employee relations issues, management consulting, right? I have advisors that will call me and say, "Can you just help us run a background check?" Or, um, yeah, just really anything that falls under that HR umbrella. We're here for it. We're here to help.
Yeah, I can't thank you enough. Is there anything I missed? Do you think I should share, or you want to share, other than the two fabulous handouts that we're going to give these advisors for watching?
Yeah, I don't think so.
No.
I would say I had another consultant say to me that advisors should be thinking about HR like compliance. And it just really like hit home for me. Obviously, they're speaking my language, so that's
Yeah.
helpful, but it really is true. Like our industry has grown up now. to the space where HR is much more important because attorneys are catching wind of that, right? They're seeing opportunities. And there's a lot more lawsuits happening in our space. And so HR really should be, even if you have only one employee, just as important to you as thinking through your compliance. So, yeah, I'll just
Wow.
close with that, I guess.
That's horrifying because for years it was just worried about a client suing an advisor, right? For
Yeah.
maybe a wrong product trade, whatever.
Yeah,
But now the industry's grown so much that
that's right.
advisors are worried about employees suing them
That's right.
for wrongdoing. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, if that's not an eye opener, I don't know what is. Oh my
So you
gosh.
need me on speed dial, every one of you.
I know you're going to be, geez, you're definitely going to be on speed dial. So folks, this was awesome, Amy. I can't thank you enough for your time. Folks, thanks for watching. Again, check out YouTube, Coffee with Delzi. Check out talentlinksolutions.com if you want to learn more about Amy and her team. And hey, this is the espresso for your practice. Let's get it done, right?
Cheers.
Thanks, Amy.